All right, we're back. We're back here in the BGP lounge. We're here with the hashtag BGP mail satchel all rolled into one. We have our mail satchel, but we also have a special guest. It's a hybrid thing. Just go with it, folks. And of course, it's sponsored by Mountaineer Mania, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Friday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday at 1 through 5 p.m. 497 West King Street. And here's the cool thing about Mountaineer Mania: they're selling the gold Nike jerseys now. Like I've seen people online asking for where can we buy football jerseys? Where can we, and these are Nikes. Okay. So there's a Nike gold Appalachian State jersey available at Mountaineer Mania right now, and they also have the black jerseys with the stripes. So go check it out this weekend. I know it's family weekend. If you want some cool Nike replica jerseys, go check them out. And part of what you purchase at Mountaineer Mania is going back to support Mountaineer athletics. Period. End of story. It's a great place to shop. Great store. Boone legend for 45 years, I think. But yeah, and we're grateful for Mountaineer Mania being the special guest sponsor. And we do have a special guest. I don't care what anybody says, especially David Jackson. You are a special guest. Adam Witten, thanks for coming back to the pod.
Yeah, if David Jackson says that it's not special, then it has to be true, right? Has to be true.
Parkway Sports.
I'm really disappointed.
Really
I'm really disappointed in DJ that he lost his spine in affiliating himself with Parkway Sports at the press conference.
Yeah, he
didn't know his affiliation when I watched the press conference this week.
Yeah, it's almost like this new regime and everything else. Almost like he. Have you ever seen that episode of The Office where Jim tries to tease with Charles Idris Elba, and he realizes like Idris Elba in there to tease? That's what David's like. Jim in that episode.
David's going to show up in a tuxedo to the press conference.
We're talking about a famous TV show, Charles. Don't worry, you can Google that later.
I've watched The Office. I have watched some Office.
Okay,
but I don't know that specific episode.
It's a good one. And just go back and watch that episode, folks, and know that that's David Jackson, is Jim from that episode,
from that specific episode.
Yeah. Well, yeah, not any other episode. I mean, he's not like David's like tall and handsome and charming. It's just that for that one episode. Anyway, moving on here. I don't want to distract David from his job this weekend calling on ESPN Plus, but we are here with the radio voice of the Mountaineers, and we're going to jump in the satchel here. Today I give my all. He's back. He's already won a cookie, but he's trying for seconds. I don't think it's going to work. He said, I'd love for you to interview freshmen and transfers that get their thoughts on the 30,000 Mountaineers in half full Bank of America sold out versus sold out Rock after this weekend. It's going to be loud. Adam, as you have been around these new players and everything else, like, I don't know, how do you think it's going to impact these new guys, these new transfers? Because we got some kids from like Austin P, for example, who I don't know Austin P's schedule, but I'm guessing that might have been the biggest crowd he played in front of on Friday. I'm sure that is probably a big change for kids that haven't played in front of those kind of crowds.
Yeah, we haven't really asked them before, but some of these guys, if they've played at FCS schools like Austin P, chances are once a year they've gone to, I mean, there's always the famous SEC SoCon Challenge in the second to last weekend of the regular season. So some players that come from SoCon schools have played in SEC environments in the month of November, but look, if the lights were too bright for some of the guys that hadn't played at the FBS level before, it didn't show. Yeah. Guys like Jaden Barnes, guys like Jalen Willis on the defensive side, didn't look like those guys weren't prepared for that moment. So, I mean, this was always a great Joey Aguilar saying, but ball is ball, and doesn't matter the scenario or the atmosphere. If those guys weren't necessarily nervous or anxious about playing in a venue like that in front of 35,000, it'll be louder at the Rock because 35,000 in the Panther Stadium is different than 35,000 or 40,000 at the Rock. Yeah. It'll be louder. So I think the one thing you do sometimes worry about is when guys get into an atmosphere like that, do you press too much? Do you try to make too much of a play? Do you try to do something that's going to get the crowd just completely juiced up? I don't think that's something that this coaching staff will allow to happen just based on the way they're going about their business. But for the first time playing at home in an environment like the Rock, that's always the thing that I would worry about is, do guys get a little too amped up and they don't necessarily play within themselves?
Charles, did you end up getting that ball is ball Joey Aguilar tattoo? Did you end up getting that, or did you change plans?
Didn't get it. Didn't get it, but I did look up Jaden Barnes' career games against big schools, such as when they lost last year 62-0 to Louisville, and then when they lost to Tennessee the year before. So he has played in bigger environments, but it will be different. As Adam mentioned, it's going to be different on Saturday. It's got to be different for him. It's one thing to like, hey, this is what you're going to see every other Saturday. This is what you're going to see 6 times. It's going to be nothing like a Friday night when, even though it's Labor Day weekend, people were still kind of subdued. They went to work that day, maybe. Some people did. I did not.
No.
But, we know better than that. So.
Hey, speaking of Tennessee, did you know that Joey Aguilar is playing at Tennessee right now? Did you know that?
Had not heard.
You mean UCLA transfer Joey Aguilar?
Yeah. Well, he actually went to UCLA first.
Yeah.
But then they traded him for Nico. It was a really confusing thing. I didn't understand it.
Funny
Someone got a Rule 5 draft pick. I don't know.
He's the player to be named later.
Yeah, the player to be named later. Cash considerations. Yeah. This is from the Gwaltnir. The Gwaltnir is back. That means we have a winning record when the Gwaltnir shows up. Coach Dow has more college football wins than Bill Belichick. Can we finally put the question to rest at who the better coach is at the collegiate level? Charles, can we crown Coach Loggins as the superior college coach to Bill Belichick?
Yeah, for right now. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. Dow Loggins didn't lose a home game by 30 some points. So
can I say something real quick on this?
Yeah,
because I feel like there's a narrative that was circling around the internet last night, and all narratives on the internet have a lot of truth to them, obviously. Yep. But I think people are trying to paint with a broad brush when it comes to Bill Belichick having such a bad debut, in that, hey, the NFL to college thing doesn't work. And they're citing Herm Edwards at Arizona State in a similar way. And that's just, I don't think that's fair to guys like Dow Loggins and people on our staff. It's not apples to apples. He's been a college coach and a college coordinator for the last few years. And so he's not coming straight from the NFL. I do feel like there's value in the experience that he had. And so I just, I don't want that to permeate across the college football space. Not that we should necessarily care about it, but the Bill Belichick thing, I don't want that to be an indictment on NFL coaches going to college and it just not being some, it's like the college basketball to the NBA thing that never worked out. It's not the same thing. I just don't want that to become the broad sweeping narrative across the sport.
That's interesting. I hadn't even made that connection, honestly. But yeah, that's a good point. Justin Fowler, it was only one game, but that was some of the best offensive play calling that we've seen in a few years. With all the weapons we saw in game 1, with others waiting to come back from injury, how do you see D'Lo balancing things out as the season goes? The offensive play calling was nice. It was had some motion in there. You had ran the ball a lot, but then in that second quarter, I think what was it like? We threw like 20 times or something. In the second quarter, it was like very unbalanced. Not quite 2-1, or was it 2-1? Adam, the ratio in the second quarter. I'm not sure what it was, but what do you think?
Yeah, I'm glad we joked about that, because what was it at the end of the game? It was 60 passes to 38 runs, and my boy BT said, "Yeah, it was like a 2-1 ratio."
Yeah,
I thought about it for a second. I was like, "No, that's not even close."
No, you started laughing. I was like, Adam better say something, because if he lets 60 passes to 38 runs, it's a 2-1. If he lets that go, I don't know if I can trust him anymore.
Yeah, it's. The thing about it now is now teams have tape on us. And that was the one advantage that you had, that every team had with a new coaching staff and all these new players had coming into week 1, is nobody had any tape on anybody. We didn't have any tape on Charlotte. They didn't have any tape on us. And so that's the thing. Now, look, I mean, that's not any surprise to anybody in that office, but you have to keep evolving. And in this particular game, it made more sense to be a little bit more pass heavy, not quite 2-1, but a little bit more pass heavy than run heavy. In a different game, it might be completely opposite. It just depends on whatever that particular matchup is going to dictate. The one thing that this staff is going to do going into every game is they are going to accentuate the things that our guys do well. And what they will do well is, I think one of the differences that you go from maybe like scouting in college to scouting in the pros is it tends to be maybe more matchup based, right? You exploit matchups. You exploit where teams might not have the horses to be able to run with you in certain places. And so, look, Dow Loggins is a great play caller. He's a great schemer on offense, especially. This is going to look different every single week. There is some tape, and so that just means it's going to have to keep evolving as the season goes along.
Yeah, I think it's solid, Charles.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we decided to do this week. That's what the NFL does is, they'll run some plays, and when it works, and then they'll hide them for several weeks, And if we need to bring back the quick passing game and quick slants to Dalton Stroman and things of that nature, then we will. And if we are going to have more success running the ball, then we'll do that as well. I don't think we're just going to sit here and say this is what we saw on Friday is what we're going to go see every week going forward. It's not the collegiate approach, not their approach, not his approach. And I mean, he even said it, I think, on Monday in his presser. He was like, I probably threw it more than I wanted to because I didn't have somebody telling me not to. So he's got to learn from that. I thought that was actually pretty eye-opening and just pretty honest, of Dow to mention that. So we'll see a different kind of, puzzle every week, and hopefully it all comes together each week, and and we look good doing it week to week, and it's not a what's going to happen as soon as you step in the stadium. You know what plays are going to be called, and it's just the matter of the timing and when they happen.
Ryan Baldy asks about team captains for this year, and just to state what D'Lo's already stated. It's going to be like on a week-to-week basis that he's going to have captains. He said that in a press conference. But there's like a council that he has of, I don't remember what he said, like a dozen. Adam, do you remember the number? Charles, do you remember like the number? Like a dozen?
I don't remember specifically.
They represent the classes. Like, so there's a freshman representative and whatever, and they have more seniors. But there's like a leadership council that gives him feedback, but there's going to be a week-to-week captain thing. So I don't know. So that's an interesting deal there. Jason Hutchins, minus the mental errors, several penalties, lack of tackling live QBs, as Coach Loggins said, was this the most complete game since Texas A&M? I want to mention this real quick before we hop on that question. I really liked Coach Loggins' press conference on Monday. I thought the way he addressed questions and mentioned things like, a lot of those were my fault. I didn't let him tackle the quarterbacks in camp. That was, I don't know. I like the candidness of that. And that makes sense. That doesn't sound like a ton of kind of like gobbledygook, coach nut, but that actually makes sense. Like if you got a bunch of guys that are just hungry, like rabid dogs trying to, tackle a quarterback or whatever. And then, there's a couple targetings on there. That kind of tracks a little bit. So to hear him say that was interesting. Whether he was more erring on the side of I want to take the blame from my players or not, I don't know. I like that comment. Do you guys feel the same way? I mean, I thought that stood out to me mentioning that.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed it as well. I thought that was, it made sense. It's like there's no reason for, we got a quarterback battle ourselves. Why are we going to sit back here and have our defense go after our guys when we're not sure who's going to play and what's behind them either? So we kind of had to take care of our goods, take care of our own cupboard, so to speak. And I mean, it made sense. And I like the idea of a defense like saying, all right, you didn't get to hit all camp. Now it's time to go get that quarterback. And you got to know that they've got a little bit extra in them when when they're actually strapping it on against somebody else.
Yeah.
Sure. Here's the one thing I'm trying to recall. Did we have any pre-snap penalties? Like the things. I mean, Charlotte's first snap of the game was a false start.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They had a handful of false starts in that game. We had a couple holding penalties. We had a roughing the passer penalty, pass interference. We had blindside block on a special teams return. So
that was weak.
Yeah, I mean, so and then 2 targeting penalties. So, I mean, do you want to have that many penalties? Absolutely not. But I thought it was very measured in what D'Lo had to say in terms of the targeting penalties. Like, live on the edge, play on the edge, don't hurt the team, right? And sometimes those things are going to happen if you're trying to play with the violent nature that this defense wants to be using. So, yeah, but it was good to see, we didn't have any false starts. I think maybe one time we had to use a timeout because the play clock was winding down. We didn't want to rush a key red zone play on offense. Didn't jump off sides at all. So, yeah, we just didn't see a whole lot of really bad fundamental things, except for, one defensive busted coverage that happened, and they'll correct that. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I think, were there some penalties you would like to have back? Yeah, but I think there's some perspective there in terms of they weren't egregious in terms of just like, hey, we're not focused, we're not ready, we're flat, we're loafing, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But as far as the second part to that, was this the most complete game since Texas A&M? So I think this is actually, I would have said right after the game, I would have said yes. Number one, it's hard to go back and like quantify exactly. Like, for example, like if the defense was great for 4 quarters and the offense was only great for 2 quarters, like, is that a complete game, or does everybody have to be playing great or good for 4 quarters total? And the special teams, do a good job, or is it just you're just dominating and just that far ahead on one side of the ball? I actually think what Coach Logan said, I think we mentioned this in the post game. I think he was correct in that there's definitely some tightening up that can be done on the offensive side. I don't think Charlotte's very good. We already covered that. But you see that 34 on our side, and you're like, all right, we scored 34 points, and our defense played great. Should have been 40, 45 points, or whatever many points we, quote unquote, should have had. But I do think that we actually left some on the table, actually, if we're being honest, offensively, which is a sign that maybe it wasn't a quote unquote complete game as we like to think it is holistically. I will say, and Adam, I think you and I texted about this a little bit, intensity wise and quality of tackles and just swagger. And that's the best 4 quarters of football that I've seen from this team. I don't think we played a full game like that defensively last year. Do we go all the way back to Texas A&M? I don't know. But I think it's been more than a season, certainly, since I've seen our defense play well. Offensively and everything together, I don't know. It's kind of a hard thing to think about. I think it's been a while, but I'm not so sure. What do you guys think?
I think it is hard to quantify, like how sits Texas A&M. I mean, we certainly didn't play perfect in that game either.
Right.
Just because we played well and won doesn't mean that we didn't have any other games like that since then. You can certainly say that we played well at James Madison when we knocked them off. Like, that was a pretty good game. Sure, there are always going to be penalties, and you can't just exclude every negative play in a football game when you have like 80 snaps, right? So it's but I think Adam brings up a good point in the nothing pre-snap. We took one delay game, and that was the punt, just to give us room. That was it. That was the only thing that was considered pre-snap. That was intentional, though. But yeah, I mean, sure, if we would have got the ball in the end zone 1 or 2 more times in the first quarter, or in the first half, really, I mean, the yardage domination was there. We just didn't get in the end zone. And I think the biggest key for what we did on Friday was We took the lead before the half. We scored, a field goal late as time expired, and that gave us some momentum on top of that interception. And it felt really good. It felt like we cruised in the second half. And I think that's what we're kind of accustomed to, is that take the air out of the ball a little bit to an extent and just finish teams off.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know if it's the most complete game since blank.
It's tough.
I think that can be subjective. But I do think the one thing that you bring up, AJ, which is important, is and this I think is what the coaching staff will look at first of all from start to finish is, did you give the effort that was required start to finish? And if we're doing that, like if we're giving, I mean, I've heard this staff mention effort so much, and that leads to all the things that happen. That leads to you playing with physicality. That leads to you playing with violence. That leads to you executing and being mentally focused on what you're doing. Are you in the moment, and are you mentally and physically giving the effort that you need on every single snap when that ball gets put down? And yeah, I think from that standpoint, mission accomplished. I think we played a complete game when it comes to the effort that was put forth. What in terms of execution and making plays and, not letting your foot off the gas, and, there's mistakes and there's great plays throughout the game, but were any of the mistakes that we made for a lack of effort? I think it's hard to pick any of them that were.
Yeah. So I think that really kind of boils down to what I think a lot of people are feeling about the game is kind of, we knew it when we saw it. One of the questions we had last week is like, what do you want to see? You want to see better execution and output from the offensive line or the defensive line? I was like, I don't know. I just want to see us dictate and us be the ones that are like deciding what's going on. And defensively, I saw that from the beginning in, and I liked a lot of what I saw on offense. But I think that's it. I think the effort box was checked. Now, can I go through the schedule, for the last 5 years and say, oh, that box was checked? No, I can't. I mean, Texas A&M is an easy one because we went on the road against a bigger team in that September heat and we punched them. It's easy to point to that, and I know that's why probably Jason did it. But I just think people they feel really refreshed to be able to see that level of effort. I know we're using the word effort like a million times here, so we'll try to chill on that. Matt Jordan, if things go as expected this coming Saturday, do you think it's better to get starters more reps or explore what is further down the depth chart? Classic question here. We're back on. We definitely have a 1-0 record right now with a question like this. What do you think, Charles?
I mean, I guess it just depends on what we have available. I mean, you certainly want to get guys who may see time and significant snaps. Some reps, such as some backup offensive linemen and backup defensive linemen and linebackers and things like that. But I think a lot of times when people ask these questions, they're like, can we get the second string and the third string quarterback? Like that's the primary. That's what everybody thinks about is when you start thinking about backups. Is like, can we get those guys like a half or something like that? And I guess it just depends on how we're playing. I have a feeling that's what D'Lo is thinking. Is like, if we're playing not good, and we need a spark, or if we're just not playing crisp enough and he wants to get that beaten out of him to an extent, like, then we'll see what happens. But I think each one of these games from his mindset is an opportunity to get better and not necessarily an opportunity to get guys times because they've earned it or just to avoid an injury or something to that effect.
Yeah. If we get let's say we get midway through the third quarter and let's say there's a big lead. We don't know if there is going to be or not, but let's say there is a big lead. If the offensive staff or defensive staff are talking to each other and they say, are we better at this point in the game than we were coming into the game? Are we executing better than we did the previous game? Then yeah, then they'll start to get more guys in the rotation. But if that's not the case, they're going to leave guys in to make sure that they are clicking. That's why, he said it. That's why guys played longer than maybe they wanted to in the fourth quarter against Charlotte. Didn't like the way that they were playing. And if you have a drop off and that's what you're going to carry into the next week, like, that's not going to fly. And
Yeah.
so it's not necessarily about the score. It's about, do they feel good about the way that this team is playing? Again, the effort, the execution, all of it. And if they've made strides in the right direction, then yeah, we'll rotate guys in if the score allows. But if that's not the case, guys are going to keep going out there until they get it right.
I think there's still a lot of valuable reps that can be taken regardless of what the score is. If you have a particular player or a certain package or rotation that you want to see and they happen to be your starters or whatever, just because it's against, this FCS team with the lead, you should do what you need to do to sharpen it to the point where you're ready to play your first conference game the next week. I mean, period. If there's a way to manage this to, for the safety of the player or to develop or whatever, that's, I think, first and foremost, what this staff, starting with Coach Loggins, I think what he wants is to make his team as great as it can be, to try to win conference. If that includes, he thinks, getting in-game reps against Lindenwood for his second and third string, he'll do it. But I think there's probably still a lot that can be accomplished with the starters too. So context is everything. I agree with Adam. This is from M. Halbert. As a whole, the Sun Belt did not fare well in the opening week, especially against the power conferences. Where would we rank the Sun Belt this year compared to all conferences and non-power conferences? That is true. Texas State, Appalachian, and who's the other one that ULM put a hurting on whoever they played, but
South Alabama too.
South Alabama. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't think you can know much in September. Honestly, really don't. So
no.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the one. Yeah, go ahead, Big C.
No. I think there's just been a lot of turnover in this conference this year. People are going to point at a handful of teams like they can win it, but I don't think it's just up to those two or three, schools that people have mentioned that there's going to run away with the conference. I think it's just wide open. It's this, and how would we know anything more than after 1 week of games where we're playing, the Georgia's playing Marshall and games of that nature. And what do you get out of, teams like Monroe playing FCS schools? There's only so much to take from it, let's get a couple weeks down the road and see where we're headed.
Yeah. The one head scratcher was the Georgia Southern Fresno State game.
Yeah.
I mean, Fresno State doesn't appear to be a great team. Now they played Kansas in week 0. They got beat pretty soundly in that game, but I thought Georgia Southern would put up a little bit more of a fight in that game. So that one was surprising, but yeah, it's week 1. We're going to look back 10 weeks from now and be like, oh, that result didn't make a lot of sense based on how this team finished the year. And who knows who those teams are going to be that are going to flip the switch one way or the other.
Yeah. I only have a few more questions here on the Twitters, Charles, just giving you a heads up here. So the interesting thing about the Duke's Mayo Classic is that Duke's branding is black and gold. So that was actually very interesting. And so I got a question here from the A-Holes Tailgate. Did you notice that the Mayo man never ventured into enemy territory? Was he an actual bibbed boonie, or are Charlotte fans scared of a little Duke's Mayo? So I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm just now realizing that was a Duke's Mayo person. I thought that was a bibbed boonie. I was. So that was like a Duke's Mayo. Like they weren't just finding some dude acting crazy. Like someone said, go wear these App State bibs and go represent the game. He's technically supposed to represent, I guess, both sides, right? But that could have been an App fan out there squirting mayonnaise on people's hot dogs, which may or may not be delicious depending on your preference. Was he an undercover agent? Like, who is that guy?
He could have. He certainly could have been. I really don't have a comment on, but it's. I'm sure the Charlotte fans didn't like it. I'm sure they would prefer to see something a little bit more. I don't know. I mean, not like they're actually wearing our overalls that we've made famous.
It was tilted very, the branding, even the pennants that they handed out, it's black and gold pennants. It was very interesting. We have a couple really good questions here. All right, so this is Yosef's Pipe. What's your favorite thing about home openers at Kid Brewer? with how Joey played in his debut at UT and how AJ played in his debut for App, is it more of a sign of how much the previous staff was not able to get most of their players, or how good our new staff is? That's a great question. I actually think that I mentioned this post game. I'm kind of repeating myself, but I think it's very impressive what Coach Loggins did with basically turning over 50 some players in an entirely new staff, and to come out and have that team play together the way they did. Adam, you said this in the post game. That didn't look like a new team. That didn't look like a new staff and a new team playing together. I was actually really, really impressed. They are new players though. In defensive, how Joey played versus this year or last year or whatever. And it is a first year for Joey too, at Tennessee. He's with a new team as well. Even though highlights show that he did pretty well. My honest assessment is I think that this first game, because I don't want to do this whole like, let's go ahead and put us in a bowl game. I don't want to do that yet. But I think that this first game, with what we saw, the output, shows a lot of the intentionality of what this new staff is doing. And maybe it does. Contrast like maybe what the previous staff didn't do as well. I think that's very fair to say. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll focus on this year's staff. I don't want to necessarily compare it to years past. I think there's so many factors involved in that. But what I will say is, yes, it did not look like a team that was breaking in 55 new players and an entirely new coaching staff. Now, where I think this staff and this team deserve a lot of credit is those 55 players. There's some good football players in that group. I mean, we saw them, right? Rashad Dubinion, he's different when it comes to running back. Isaiah Cummings, the tight end, he was tremendous. Jaden McBurrows on defense. Rondo Porter, the defensive tackle who made a huge play on a 3rd and 1 in the first quarter of the game. Like, these guys, there's a lot that I applaud this staff for the relentless nature they put in recruiting the players to this year's team. So that's the reason why I think a big reason why I think it all came together. Everybody put in the work. They took all the extra reps and meetings and conditioning and everything that they did to make it materialize the way that it did in Charlotte. But of all those new players, Jaden Barnes, I didn't even mention him, right? There's some outstanding players that came in with that group. And I think we saw just, hey, like, these guys made a big impact. These players went out there and they put their talent, their athleticism on display. And that was a huge difference.
Yeah. Charles, what do you think?
I think really it comes down to, what you can see and how much time you got in order to fix something. There's a reason why Dow and he put it together a staff that has a lot of experience at the next level. And that means that they have a lot of experience looking at players who have played, and a lot of experience evaluating talent on the football field. And I think there's a big difference between being accepting of the portal and hesitant of the portal. And, you can almost go and flip your team. Now, I think it's kind of become a thing now. You've had to really adapt, and you go find guys that can do the things that you're looking for, whether it be run stopping, catching passes, being big, whatever. And then, of course, building relationships with other places you've been. It doesn't hurt that Dow has been at Arkansas and at South Carolina, and he had relationships with players that he may have recruited but never went to those schools. And there's something to be said for that. So that's not discounting anybody else, but it's one of those things where it's like, I said it on post game. I was pleasantly surprised of what we saw for game 1. And that's all we have in front of us right now. It's just game 1, and game 2 and game 3 and game 4 and so on may be different. And we may have different opinions when those come around.
Yeah, that's the best point, is that it is game 1. And like, we really liked game 1. Game 1 was fun. Game 1, it looked like, Adam, that all those guys you mentioned, it looked like they were playmakers to me.
Yeah. Well, to Charles' point, Rashad Dubinion, his freshman year at Arkansas was when Dow Loggins was the tight end coach there.
Right.
So you talk about like the long play of maintaining those relationships, building those relationships, and it paying off that, he decides he wants to come play for Coach Loggins at App State, and he's an instant impact running back. So
yeah.
I mean,
but it is just one game, and I would love that all those names that you mentioned, Adam, to still be making plays by the end of the year. But we got to play those games, So I do, in all fairness, that's a great question, and we as fans and me, I like to project out like, yeah, we're going to play with that much intensity this week. We're going to have Jaden McBurrows is going to go make some big open field tackles this week as well. He's going to read a guy. He's going to smack. I'm projecting that. That's what I want to see. Now, will that happen? I don't know. Probably, maybe, hopefully. But that's a great question. I just think that game one, it's maybe a little early to say, but it's trending that, this staff and Coach Loggins has done a great job putting together a roster and coaching them. This is from Brad Workman. This is the last one. There was Garrett Morton asked, I know it's early, but do we add where's a visor to a list of requirements for future coaching hires? That's good. But this is from Brad Workman. You can only pick two, and this is the last one on Twitter. What are your favorite buzzwords you hope will be true throughout the season? Number 1, finishing tackles. 2, pressuring the quarterback. 3, dominant running back. 4, limiting explosive plays. 5, dictating. 6, dynamic schemes. And then 7, he gives us the option to write in something. But fellas, what would you want out of those phrases to ultimately be true about the season throughout?
If I had to pick one, I would say finishing tackles. I think that goes a long way. We let a touchdown in, and it was, they were driving and they were close, but you thought to yourself like, hey, that's the guy didn't finish the tackle. He had him wrapped up and he let go. So if you make contact and you make them feel it, and you finish a one-on-one tackle versus needing a gang tackle, I think that goes a long way to being good on defense.
Yeah, I'm going to go pressuring the quarterback. I think pressuring the quarterback completely changes what you can do as a defense. And, especially if you can pressure with 4. If you can pressure with 3 or 4 guys and your defense can play man behind it, or you can just drop 7 and not give a quarterback anywhere to throw the ball. And you can play zone and just keep your eyes on the backfield, and you can be good against the run as well. If you can pressure a quarterback, that completely changes your level of success as a defense. The guy that I saw that was just an elite pass rusher and makes their defense so good is Dylan Stewart from South Carolina. Coach Loggins would probably say he's like the closest thing they've had to Jadeveon Clowney there. And we saw how much he gave fits to Virginia Tech in that game on Sunday. So, yeah, if I'm picking one that makes the biggest impact in terms of just what you can see in the results on the field, you get me a way to pressure a quarterback consistently with 4 guys or less, you've got an elite defense.
I think the term dictating implies that you're finishing tackles and putting pressure on the quarterback in a way. So I think that's kind of more holistic in you're doing a lot of things right, not just one, where finishing tackles is great and pressuring the quarterback is also great. But I would say that 5th option, just because that implies that there are multiple position groups doing well and doing their jobs and playing together more than just one particular position. So I think that might be a cheat code for me, but I like that. I like that question. I'll give Brad Workman the Twitter prize.
Cookies.
So Brad, you send me your address on the X machine here and put it in the mail.
I'll take it. I'll just give it to me. I'll take it.
Yeah, sure. Got you.
You can trust me. You can trust me.
100%.
Home game weekend.
Yeah, 100%. Charles, we're done with the tweets.
All right, we're going to the face-to-face. Facebook. Of course,
My
J
favorite.
Nail starts it off. Yeah. He refers to me hitting the over-under or on the number of app players taking a snap against UNC commuter. How about Lindenwood? Does an early blowout mean app takes the opportunity to go deeper into the QB room? So that's, I think I'd seen Jay's question earlier, and that's what I was kind of referring to earlier. Is yeah, I think we kind of answered that. But thanks for the shout out a little bit, Jay, on that one.
Do you have an
Anything to
over-under?
add?
Are you providing the number?
Am I doing it this time? No.
Okay.
You know, I'm not. I know when to hold my chips there. You got lucky on that one. So
I'll say more than 22.
More than 22.
Is that a Taylor Swift reference?
No.
I'm just asking.
Did you hear she got engaged?
You know what? I saw that the mayonnaise jar was there at the engagement. The Duke's mayonnaise jar.
Yeah.
Wearing black and gold.
I believe it.
Yep. Well, I saw it on TV.
Yeah, had to be true.
Yeah.
Sean Welch, Overaction Monday. Now it's Tuesday, right? How does week 1 change your 2025 expectations? Are we
CFP,
eligible?
baby.
Yeah, are we ball eligible New Year's 6 CFP? What do we got?
That's a totally fair question. I mean, I know
It's
CFP.
fine.
I mean, it's totally fair. I mean, I'll answer that honestly. I had my baseline was 6-6. That was my baseline. I don't think Charlotte's very good. And I love the here's the E word. I love the effort. I think we have some playmakers. If I'm projecting that safely, my expectations are I think this looks like a bowl team. I really do. I think that it's very realistic to say that the way we played, it's projecting out to be a bowl quality team. Does this mean if we don't make the conference championship game representing the East that we suck and it's a failure? No, I'm not saying that at all. I just like the way we played. I like some of the players we have on our team. And yeah, so my expectations have definitely projecting forward have been more positive for sure. I'll say that.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. I mean, you're going to find a hard path losing on Friday to getting to be bowl eligible, right? Like that's where your mind's going. It's like, how's that going to happen? But now you're like, yeah, now I see that being more likely. Now we can't also expect the same type of game every week, that we saw on Friday with turnovers and and things of that nature and limiting teams to 200 yards of offense. Like it's not going to happen every week. It's unlikely because it's just not the way it works. But is it possible? Like if we play up to that every week, then yeah, of course.
I think we saw what our ceiling can be. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of expectations, that was the hardest thing is, well, what are we capable of this year?
Yeah.
None of us knew, right?
Yeah.
None of us knew. But especially when you watch that second quarter,
mm-hmm.
You saw what we're capable of.
Yeah.
So that's encouraging. And so how that works out in terms of the record at the end of the season, we'll find out. But I think we can be excited in seeing like, okay, we got an idea of like what our ceiling could be.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be pretty high.
Yeah.
It's a lot to hold up to because, you got to consider what all we saw, right? Are we going to get a 368-yard passer every week? Are we going to get a running back who rushes for 100 every week? Are we going to have a wide receiver that goes for 100 plus every week? Probably not, but you'll take it. You'll take the little bits and pieces of it. Like one of those things or two of those things could happen. And you can still not have as great of a statistical game as you did on Friday, but you still might be able to win. Tom Lawson, Lindenwood, is that a shoe polish, candy bar, type of wood you use for smoking meat? Trying to be funny. I love it.
Now, Tom is on his high horse. I didn't peg Tom for. Now I know that Tom is like, if for anybody that knows Tom, he's like the nicest guy.
Oh my gosh,
the nicest guy. But man, when the game clock is running in whatever sport, I mean, he'll give the referee some hell. Now he'll go. He's a competitive son of a gun. So I do like this trash talk, but it just took one really great game against Charlotte kicking off for Tom to break out this serious trash talk. I love it.
Hey, can I promote something for Tom since he
100%.
asked the question?
Yes, always.
So, as you guys know, I live in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. Every year, Tom helps put on the annual basketball tip-off luncheon.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
It's in downtown Winston-Salem at Centenary United Methodist Church, and it's next Tuesday, September 9th, from 11:30 to 1. Dustin Kearns will be there. Alora Sharp will be there. It's a great event. And last year, Mayor Alan Joines came and declared it, App State Men's Basketball Day in celebration for what the team had done the previous season. And so, if anybody has a chance to be in Winston-Salem around lunchtime on Tuesday, September 9th, it's a great event. Totally free. You just got to go on to the alumni website and register for the event. It's great fellowship. You'll get to hear from the coaches. And then he also does one leading up to stick and ball season. He does it with Kermit Smith and Whitney Jones for baseball and softball as well. So shout out to Tom.
Yep. Great. Thanks for that, Adam. That's true. That's always really cool to see Tom do every year for sure.
Bill Watterson, after an awesome week 1 win in our home away from home, App gets ready for the true home opener. What is it you look forward to the most for the first home game of the season? Is it tailgating, a restaurant stop, the people you see, or is it just being in Boone and at KBS for the game?
Well, Adam, you're always working. So do you have a your answer is probably super different.
I mean, for me, it is the adrenaline that you feel right before a kickoff. Like we do a long 2-hour pregame show, and it's pretty involved. And we feel like we put in a full day's work by the time we get to kickoff. But when you hear the entrance video and you hear "Welcome to the Rock" and you see the team come out, and before all that, you hear the App State chant, like the adrenaline rush that you get, that's just like, oh my gosh, I'm ready to just run through a wall right now. And then you get ready, and then the game gets ready to start. Like that moment of 2 to 3 minutes is like, that is the height of excitement for me on home game days.
When you get to be a fan for just like a brief snapshot, and you're not thinking about commercials, you're not thinking about what you're going to say next.
And that's the thing is like a lot. Yeah. To your point, like you feel like a lot of times we're in recorded content as that's going on, and we try to go live just as the team is coming out. We try to time it well. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, like you get to just be quiet and take your headset off and just listen and observe and and just be a part of the energy in the stadium. And that's that you can't beat that. You really can't.
Do you ever try to come up earlier some days versus others, like whatever your routine is, and say, hey, today I'm going to do something special, I'm going to go to here or something like that?
Oh, I'll try to like grab breakfast somewhere in the morning, places that I don't really get to that often, but I always try to get to the stadium about 4 hours before kickoff. I like just sitting in the quiet of the empty stadium up in the booth and just like cramming those last few notes and just getting my setup organized. I'm very OCD about my setup in the booth. And so get all that organized. And then if I have time, I do like kind of maybe stepping outside and walking around. But usually I'm always paranoid that if I walk outside, I'll get distracted and I will get back up the elevator in time or something. But I love the sitting in the quiet of the stadium is really nice. There's only a few people in the building at that time. Our booth is totally empty. Open those windows and just like sit in the peace before sit in the calm before the storm for a little bit.
What about you, Charles?
I think it's just it's really the people, and the people, includes the tailgate, and that's where you see your tailgate family. They're all there, right? You may see them throughout the year. They may come to a basketball game or to a baseball game or other things. You see them off the mountain for events, but then it's like, and then you have like the family that you sit with in the stadium that are usually the same people that are. You're guarding their seats, they're guarding yours because they know who's not supposed to be sitting up there, and it's just fun. It's, it's like, hey, it's not, I don't know where you're going, pal, but so-and-so sits there and, you're going to have to go ahead and get on out of here real quick before they get up here.
Yeah, what's going on in your section, dude? Like, wow.
Hey, I'm telling you,
up there?
Bodyguards, I'm telling you, don't come sitting in the 204
Deal.
if you don't belong.
Deal. Whoa, I'm scared now. Wow.
I will say the other thing is the drive down River Street is a lot of fun. Just feeling like, okay, what's the vibe around today's game? And I park up in Greenwood, so I get a chance to drive past Big C's tailgate and look over there and seeing everyone having a good time. So, but the drive down River Street is pretty special too in the middle of the tailgate sessions.
So that's a great question. I really don't want to cop out. I think I'm more closely aligned to Adam's, like the immediate, like the countdown, like under 20 minutes, the band's coming out. You watch, the players have wrapped up, warming up a little bit, like that whole thing. Like then you start having flashbacks of everything you've been through in the stadium, the different moments, the different teams, different players you've watched, and you're just kind of like, it's kind of muscle memory. But for me, so I live an hour away. And we have our routine of getting that we go that same path, almost like a chance to like meditate about what's getting ready to happen. Pass the same thing every time. And so we have that time to, we have our playlist and like we're rolling, and we get like together as a family just to get excited together in a confined space for an hour, just focus about what we're getting ready to do. And we get to Boone, and, almost always the weather's better up there than where we're coming from. And it is everything. It's the game day. It's Saturday. It is seeing people. And, but I would say when the rubber meets the road, we drive up for a game. We don't drive up to see people. It's part of it, and that's great. But it's the game. And I think that of all those moments and all of that, just, I don't know, all the moments, all the games, all the wins that we've had, and you just kind of sit back and reflect. And this year we're sitting on the west side. So I'm most looking forward to on Saturday is sitting in the shade from the beginning of the game. That's what I'm most looking forward to. I don't know if I'm ready for the apparently the rough and rowdy nature of what's going on in the Big C section, but I'll have my tickets and I'll know where I need to sit. But it'll be in the shade, and we're very excited.
What's on your playlist?
Hardly rough and rowdy.
Playlist.
What's on your drive up the mountain playlist?
It varies. You got Metallica on there. You got some songs from Into the Spider-Verse because the kids get they get a say in the playlist as well. Okay. So Start a Riot from there. I like Led Zeppelin. You get some stuff. You can't really get into the rap. I mean, the rap gets a little. You got kids in the car. You can't really. You can't do Waka Flocka too much. I do try to play songs that I've heard in the stadium. So there's there's a DMX song that was popular that they played in the stadium during the playoffs when I was in school. I think it was Started Up. I think it was in the movie Drumline, but I always try to listen to that on game day because they would play that during warmups during the playoffs. But it varies a little bit. Yeah. So, and you got to always be aware that there's some songs that aren't always kid friendly. So that's changed over the years.
When you start the car, do you play Bugler Stream?
No. It's a good idea, though. We should probably do that. Backing up, get the, that's a good idea. I think we'll do that this Saturday. It's a new tradition, thanks to Adam Whitten.
And then when you get there, you play the Tennessee Waltz when your drive is over.
Yes. Oh, bad. We do. You know what's funny though? I do have a playlist that includes Appalachian Spring, which was part of the band's playlist as well. Aaron Copeland's Appalachian Spring, which is great. We love hearing that. So yeah. So I didn't nail it exactly where you're going, but those are two great suggestions.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Just by coincidence, we're going to skip a couple questions ahead. Chick Buckwell. As a fan, what should we expect out of the athletic department at App State football? No uni reveal, no bugler stream, no marketing department that gets our gear in big box stores, no pointing on kickoffs from the sidelines, no coaches' appearances on the BGP. You either talk about culture, you live it. You're getting harder to live it when it's not supported. So I just felt like saying that because we were talking about bugler stream, and I didn't want to end on that note. On the set, on with a sad note, but I just thought it was worth the mention. I noticed it, on Friday, etc. But back to more football talk. Nick Gord, in what way was the 93 years of coaching experience most apparent on Friday? Talent acquisition, schemes, play calling, preparation, detail, something else? I think it's a lot of the buzzwords we're hitting again, like over and over. You know?
I want to ask Coach Loggins about this on Mountaineer Talk. I think Matt Present brought this up, and I thought it was a really interesting point. The one thing that you do have when you've been coaching in the NFL as long as some of our guys have is experience with the in-helmet communication, right? We're only in year 2 in college football of the in-helmet communication. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people have gone through a year of it. But for guys that have been in the NFL, it's second nature. That's how they've always done it. And so I want to ask Coach Loggins about that on the show on Wednesday night. I don't know if that's the answer that we're looking for here, but that's the one thing that kind of stood out to me is like, let me maybe that is kind of an advantage in somewhat of a in between the margins type of thing. But I don't know. I thought it was an interesting point.
I don't think I can answer the question in full about it being uniquely tied to the NFL. What I do think is that Coach Loggins seems like the kind of guy that knows the kind of coach he is or wants to be. And it's very apparent. It's very apparent to me. We've said this from he got here. It seems to me that he is obsessed with recruiting. And that is extremely important to him, and that his staff, that he's hired people that believe that too. And that looked like an organization and a team that had somebody obsessing over this is how I want to warm up. This is how I don't want to release too deep. I want to have this kind of play. I want to have this kind of and down to he ran a play to the outside. Like it's just like he knew run a play on the outside with 4 seconds left to kick that field. Like he just is a very detail-oriented football guy. And I think that bled over into recruiting. I don't know how much of that's NFL though. Like, I don't know. I don't know, because there are certainly, I'm not trying to be ridiculous here, but Nick Saban was the most detail-oriented, organized, obsessive guy ever. Urban Meyer was like that. And you'd think of really successful coaches. They're very detailed. And this is the kind of coach I want to be. This is how I'm going to execute. I'm just going to get it done. I don't know. I thought everything was buttoned up and sharp. I think we looked organized, and we executed. And I think it's a trickle down effect. I really do. I think I think what you see in the field a lot of times reflects the very top. And we say that, and I don't know. I think we said this on the post game. I feel like we're rehashing the post game a little bit. I don't mean to, but I think it's a great jumping off point for Coach Loggins in this early season, game 1.
Yeah, I think execution is because you're prepared and you're detailed. That's the result of that. And if you don't go through all those things, and it's a lot harder to execute on game day.
Yeah.
I think in the NFL, one more quick point. In the NFL, winning is so much more in the margins than I think in college football. In college football, teams, a lot of times teams can win just because they're bigger, faster, stronger.
Yep.
Right. And in the NFL, the margin is so small in terms of who's good.
That's a great point.
And who's not good. And so you almost have to be that way as a coach and as you game plan to find those little things that you can lean on to give you an advantage. And you have to maybe turn over more rocks than you normally would to find that advantage, because it is harder to find in the NFL than it might be in college, with maybe the exception of some of your higher end games in conference. But a lot of Nick Saban's Alabama team, and again, like you said, he was one of the most. So this is a bad example, but we know Nick Saban's Alabama team, a lot of times you could just roll the ball out there and they could beat guys just because they were better. They were just better players, right? But when they played, when they played LSU or when they played Georgia, they had to, it was, the margins were a lot smaller. Well, in the NFL, it's like that every week, right? For 16, 17 weeks.
Yeah. That's actually a great point. And that's actually what we talked about last week with like the 2-deep stuff. Like is it a marginal benefit to just not do that? The answer is probably yes. And that matters to him. I mean, that's a great point. Like I'm going to find every conceivable advantage. I'm going to warm up this way. I'm going to have this package. I'm going to top to bottom to find every advantage. And it just, I don't know, buttoned up, man. It looked very buttoned up to me. I just can't say, oh, that's because of NFL stuff. It looked like a well-coached team to me.
Stephen Pennell, we've kind of answered this already, but we do appreciate the comment and or question. If we use Billy Wiles' playing time against Lindenwood as the barometer for improvements from last week, how many minutes does he play to say we're getting better? It's kind of hard to say, I don't think we're at that point yet.
Yeah.
I think this is different if this is a week 10 FCS opponent versus a week 2.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. We still have such a small sample size.
Yep.
And then last one in the 333 Club, Sean Welch, Parents Weekend is usually the worst home game atmosphere of the season. What's more important, a guaranteed FCS sellout or teaching students how to be loud and engaged? You can't.
Oh, Sean loves the teaching, like controlling the student section. Back in my day, they weren't this bad. Love Sean. We were better back then. That's the Sean Welch mantra there. I'm just giving Sean a hard time.
They're all so well behaved though, the students in game one, right?
I'm going to tell you this. I've said this on the show. It's been years, but when I was like 12 or 13, my uncles, who both went to Appalachian State, took me to an App game when I was probably 12. It was in 2001, and Big C, of course, was the big man on campus. He was out there. Maybe this was Big C, and I'm just misremembering. But I remember sitting in the student section with my uncles, and the behavior and the language that I heard there was filthy. Drunks. I mean, it was insane. And to think that it's that much worse today, I can't believe that it's that much. Student sections are student sections. Students are students. And they pick up bad habits that are maybe more visible. Things are more visible today. But there's no teaching 8,000 kids. You can't teach. I remember, all due respect, Doug Gillen. Doug had sent this when it was like they did the "you suck a-hole" thing for a while, and Doug sent this letter. Like he sent a letter. Like in the third paragraph, it was like, "We need to stop doing this chants." Like, how many students read that? The third paragraph. You can't teach them. Like you just need to ignore it and let it. Like mob rules, guys. Like sell out the stadium and just disclaimer. The students are going to be students. That's what it is.
I remember when I was in school and, some of my new best friends that I just met 3 weeks ago were like, hey, we're like, hey, you behaving this weekend for the game because it's Parents Weekend? I was like, hey, dude, every weekend is Parents Weekend for me. My dad comes up to every single game. He's like, oh, man, that must suck. I was like, this is all I know. This is all we've ever done. No, we love it.
Now I get a picture of like what my son's going to go through.
Right.
I don't know another way.
I was like, yeah. And, when I was a freshman in college, and I was like, I'm going to go sit with my dad. I don't want to sit in the student section anymore because that's not where I watched games as a kid. I watched it with him. That was the thing. So,
yeah.
But anyway, we're with you, Sean. So, who gets the cookie for the 333 Club?
What do you think, Charles?
How about, since we're going double dipping, Sean Welch? We got the overreaction Monday.
Yeah, I like that,
question,
Sean.
And then going hard again with the family weekend's terrible crowd kind of thing.
I like that. That's good. Sean wins. I do want to address
you guys. You guys can give me his gift card. I'll give it to him.
Yeah, that wasn't funny the first time you said it, Adam. And it's not funny the second time you said it.
I thought it was hilarious. Actually,
keep trying though.
You try. Yeah. Keep trying.
Oh,
I do want to address something that Chip said just a second ago about the coaches not coming on the show. A lot of that has to do with just different staffs want to do different things and have different priorities. And I'm super busy. Charles and I both have never been busier in our lives.
That's correct.
You know, we do this because we like it. It's fun. It's a creative outlet for both of us. And we know people like Adam Witten so well because we do stuff like this, and that makes it worth it. But the coaches aren't on the show because the culture's dying. A lot of it is it's hard for me to balance all the stuff that I have to do as a dad, a professional, all this stuff, and an app fan. So I have requested coaches to be on the show. You know, sometimes that doesn't work, but Joey has helped us. Joey Jones has helped us get players on the show this during camp. And they don't have to do that. I'm sure Loggins has to sign off on that one way or the other, and that was valuable. But a lot of the times, it's hard to schedule all the shows we want exactly as we want it. Now, if we were doing this, if we had the kind of reputation and schedules that we did 10 years ago, that would be a different story.
Right.
So we try to do what we can. But go ahead, Charles.
Yeah. How many times have we done an interview like on our lunch breaks at work?
Yeah. Right.
Like at least a dozen times. I know we did it with Jeff Dillman.
Yeah. And Sean Elliott.
And then Ben Moore, you know, from long ago.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's hard to do that now. It's not as much fun.
Yeah. And like tonight we got started late, and I appreciate Big C and Adam for sticking with me because my son had football practice and I helped him coach, and we got back at 8:45 and it's later than we want it to be. And anyway, so I'm just saying, like, don't cast this out like we're sitting here like wanting all this to happen and they're just rejecting us. That's not what's happening now. No. I would love Coach Loggins to come on the show. I'd love DJ Smith to come on the show. And everything. Maybe that'll happen or whatever. But don't think that nothing is like in the background happening or whatever. I don't want anybody to think that. The other stuff I can't really speak to. But I don't know. I just don't want people to think that there's anything nefarious going on.
No, there's not. And I can speak to that as well. It's different, but I don't think it's bad. And yeah, I can say this has nothing to do necessarily with who you guys are. I mean, they know that you guys support App State and everything that you do.
Right.
Being around that football building, it is, I don't necessarily want to use the word chaotic, but it is so intense there just in terms of everything that they're doing. And when they're not doing football related things, it's recruiting all the time. And so it's just hard. Look, you guys already have challenging schedules, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And then you mix in their challenging schedules, and there's just no window for this to happen, especially in season. We deal with it as well. But again, we'd all rather them be out there doing the recruiting thing than
100%.
spending 30, 45 minutes with us. I mean,
100%.
You know, like we don't have assistant coaches on Mountaineer Talk anymore. And that's not because they're off limits. It's just, look, like they got other things that they need to do. And quite honestly, if they have 30 minutes, an hour in between to eat dinner after practice is over, and when they come back and do more film study, like, let them go have dinner with their family, and do that kind of thing. So,
I mean, I really do feel like this, Adam, to your point here, is that this is a staff on a mission. They are here to do a job. And I would rather personally, as much as like over the years, we've had closer personal relationships with the football staff. And that's great. You still have those relationships, by the way. It's not like they go away, but like if it came down to it, like, hey, we're going to be really great this year, but I'm not going to be able to do your podcast. I'm an Appalachian State fan. You know, this podcast isn't my full-time job. Like, I want to be great this year. Please go be great. And I think we can have both. I'm not saying one rules out the other, but things are different. That's okay. But also Charles and I are really super busy. Like we couldn't find time. Charles and I couldn't find time to record a couple weeks ago because he was off doing, it's hard. And if you want to go support the podcast, go to supportbgp.com and support the show if you like what you hear. No, but really it is. It's just different. It's a season of life. It's got young kids. It's not always easy to have all schedules aligned. And if Joey texts me back and says, hey, can you do 10 a.m. on Wednesday for well, no, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. It's not because I don't want to make time or whatever. It's just we can't. So anyway, didn't mean to like throw that ball of yarn out there. Just want to make sure people were clear on that. We're done. This is great. Thanks, Adam, for hopping on with us.
The satchel is empty.
It's empty. It's over. Anything else? Any parting words for the listeners from either one of you? Adam, start with you. Anything final you would like to say to the listeners?
Man, I love all you guys.
Thank you.
You guys. Look, how much? It's been what, 10 years you've been doing this pod, or 11? How many years?
This is season 11. But we've been doing it for more than 10 years. Yeah, we've crossed the 10-yard mark. Yeah,
like the fact that you guys have evolved and to the point where both of you guys have multiple children, and you're still doing this podcast every week. That's amazing. That's not easy to do. So, applaud you guys for always bringing what you do on a consistent basis. And I think it says a lot that people are posting in the BGP club, like having that itch for the post game pod. Like, you guys have that. You guys have that stickiness about what you do. So
well, thank you.
And so thanks for letting me be part of the party tonight. Shout out to everybody out there. Thank you all for that listen to us on a regular basis. We're pretty blessed to be a part of this fan base. So we don't take it for granted.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Adam. Charles.
I can't top that. No need to try.
All right. So thanks, everybody. All right. But seriously, thanks, everybody. If you've made it this far, thanks for listening to this episode of the Black and Gold Podcast. And I can finally say stuff like this again, and until our post-game episode this coming Sunday, go Apps.
Bong.
Come on, stream. Let's end. End stream. Come on. Come on, baby. We want to be able to say things and be inappropriate. Come on. I don't know why it's not ending. This is crazy. Like, what do you do? People are still listening to us. Don't say anything until the YouTube just isn't. It just wants more. It wants more of us. I think that's the problem. All right, Adam. I tell you what. We're gonna hop off here and do the intro. Thank you.
Yeah,
we'll tag you on the Twitters, and Charles,
right,
I'll send you a new link.
All right, Charles, I'll see you tomorrow night.
All right, sounds good. We'll see you.
See ya.
See ya.